Hello, I am 43 years old from Varna, and I am asking a psychologist to help me get out of what I am stuck in. I feel like I am under a spell and I don't know what to do. In short, for about 5 months now, I have been in a very specific and to a large extent socially unacceptable extramarital relationship, which I would conditionally call forbidden love, as a result of which I am slowly destroying myself and I am also harming the other party in our relationship. Last but not least, this relationship is also detrimental to my marriage. The worst thing is that lately things have started to get really bad and I feel how depression is slowly starting to creep in. Please, someone help. First off, to the person who wrote this, and really to anyone out there who hears their own story in these words, thank you. Thank you for your courage. Just being able to acknowledge this reality is a massive and absolutely vital first step. So let's try to unpack this feeling of being stuck and see if we can understand what's really going on here. The person who wrote this used a really powerful word, spellbound, and it's perfect, isn't it? It completely captures that feeling of being trapped by some force that's totally outside of your control. But what if that force isn't magic? What if it's something we can actually understand and even work with? What's so important to grasp is that this feeling, it isn't craziness. It's not a curse. It's actually the natural result of an intense internal conflict. It's a sign that two incredibly powerful parts of you are pulling in completely opposite directions. And that kind of friction, it's absolutely exhausting and disorienting. And here, we can see that conflict laid out pretty clearly. On one side, you have your reason. It sees the damage. It knows this path is destructive. But on the other side, there's this powerful, powerful emotion, a deep attachment that's keeping you anchored right where you are. This internal tug of war is exactly why it feels like a spell. You're not being controlled by something outside of you. You're being torn between two very real forces inside of you. So the big question is, why is that emotional pull so incredibly strong? Well, to understand that, we need to look at the unique and powerful chemistry that's often behind these kinds of relationships. There's a very real reason they can feel so addictive. And before we go any further, I want to be really clear on this point. Finding yourself in this situation does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who is in a state of strong emotional dependency. It is so important to separate what you're doing from who you are. You know, these relationships can act on our psychology a lot like an addictive substance. You've got the sheer intensity of the highs, the powerful bond that gets created by secrecy, that rush of adrenaline from the risk, and, of course, that intoxicating illusion of being uniquely special to someone. All of these things create this potent cocktail that our brains can become dependent on. This brings us to the depression the person mentioned. It's so tempting to see it as some kind of punishment for your actions, isn't it? But it's much more helpful to see it as a signal. It's your psyche's way of sounding a major alarm, basically shouting, I can't sustain this internal division anymore. Something has to give. And this gets us to the real danger here. While the relationship is obviously causing a lot of pain, the most destructive part of this whole cycle is that feeling of hopelessness, that deep-seated belief that there's just no way out. When a person truly believes they're trapped, that's when despair really sets in. But here's the thing, there is always a path forward. It might not be simple, it might not be easy, but it exists. So let's shift gears from just understanding the problem to exploring some initial steps you can actually take to start reclaiming a sense of control. And the key word here is now. The whole idea of making some huge, life-altering decision, it's just paralyzing. So let's just forget about that for a minute. What small, manageable action could you take right now? Okay, let's just walk through these. First, and this is so critical, try to stop the self-blame. Guilt is like an anchor that keeps you stuck. It almost never leads to positive action. Second, get curious. Ask yourself honestly, what is this relationship really giving me? Is it a feeling of being alive, an escape from something else? You have to understand the why behind it. Third, make one small, real decision. This isn't about ending everything at once. Maybe it's just a pause, a limit on contact for one day, a single clear rule for yourself. Small wins build momentum. And finally, and maybe most importantly, seek out professional help. This isn't about judging morality. It's about getting support for your emotional health, just like you would for your physical health. And all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important insight of all. In situations like this, we often get stuck because we think we're facing an impossible choice. But what if we're looking at the wrong choice entirely? This is such a liberating idea. That pressure to make an immediate, all-or-nothing decision between two monumental things, that's usually the very thing that keeps us paralyzed. So what if, just for a moment, you gave yourself permission to set that giant choice aside? Because that choice you think you have to make, marriage versus affair, it isn't the real one you need to make right now. The true foundational choice, the one that has to come before all others, is the one on the right. The choice to prioritize your own mental health. Because here's the truth. You can't make a healthy decision for anyone else until you've first made a healthy decision for yourself. Let's just let that sink in for a second. Before you can make any clear decision about your relationships, your life, or your future, you first have to decide to take care of yourself. The very first choice is, and it always must be, you. So we'll end with this question. It's not about finding the right answer for your entire life right this second. It's simply about asking yourself, am I ready to make the one choice that makes all the other choices possible? The choice to start healing.